Another in a weekly series of in-depth reports on issues and news events of interest to the South Florida community. Tonight, September storm. A report on Hurricane Dora's destructive journey through North Florida and the controversy she left in her wake. Your reporter, Wayne Fariss.
Good evening. Today is the 15th of November, and it's a significant day, for it brings down the curtain on the 1964 hurricane season, one that has been a long and stormy session. Among the residents of Northeast Florida, 1964 will be known as the year of Dora, the most violent and destructive hurricane to strike that area in this century. For nearly 24 hours, Dora lashed Florida's upper east coast before finally battering St. Augustine and the port city of Jacksonville, causing untold millions of dollars in damages. But in Dora's wake of rubble, she also left food for thought, whether or not North Florida would do better with a rigid hurricane building code, one that would withstand the fury of storms. But the hurricane danger has passed, for 7 months anyway, and it's possible that public apathy will set in until another ill wind is blowing down our throats. In a moment, we'll examine what can be done to better prepare for hurricanes on September storm. Hurricane Dora lived for 11 days as a major tropical storm. As if steered by destiny rather than prevailing easterlies, she struck only one landmass during her career as a hurricane, the state of Florida. On the 1st of September, a hurricane hunter plane spotted Dora for the first time far out in the Caribbean, some 850 miles northeast of Trinidad. From the start, she was a fat and lazy storm. For the first 5 days of her life, she moved northwestward, gradually changing to west-northwest. On September 8th, she rubbed eyes with Hurricane Ethel, a smaller sister storm, also working the waters of the South Atlantic. The long, shallow arc of Dora's path appeared to be aimed for a direct hit at the U.S. missile complex at Cape Kennedy.
Including the Titan II. Only the mighty Saturn I moon rocket was left standing to weather the blow. But at daybreak on the 9th of September, 3 members of an 8-man WCKT team of reporters and photographers were there.
In downtown St. Augustine, things were not much better. The sluggish Matanzas River, swollen by Dora's torrential rains, spilled over its banks in a furious rush to the sea. Dora collected upstream log jam at Highway 1 bridge, making the vital roadway impossible. The U.S. Weather Bureau at 1 p.m. on September 9th found Dora 65 miles east-northeast of St. Augustine, moving steadily toward the extreme northeastern Florida and Georgia coasts. Hurricane warnings were posted from Vero Beach north to Charleston, South Carolina. By 3 that afternoon, the Weather Bureau noted that Dora was somewhat erratic in both direction and speed. The oldest city was already being slapped by hurricane-force winds and heavy seas. Channel 7's news team chased Dora up the coast. Dora, like Cleo, which struck the Miami area 2 weeks earlier, was a dry hurricane until just a few hours before she hit the Florida coast. At 11 p.m., the Weather Bureau fixed the Burley storm, some 10 miles, came during the early morning hours of the 10th. By that time, 1,200 citizens of Jacksonville Beach. For the first time, heavy bands of rain stripped her massive spiral wall cloud. By 1 a.m., Hurricane Dora's large, distorted eye was sitting on top of the historic city. But even before nightfall, St. Augustine's streets were flooded with 3 feet of water in some places. St. Augustine Beach was a shambles. 3 piers were crushed by the 10-foot tides, capped by frequent 20-foot waves. Beachfront restaurants and hotels were gutted by wind and water. Large areas of beach were washed away, and of course power was completely knocked out. Passable and flooding Old Bay Street. The ancient slave market in the heart of the city, the focal point of St. Augustine's recent racial conflicts, was an island surrounded by water. Hotels and tourist attractions took a bad beating. The city's graceful oak trees, some of them a century old, were badly damaged. The wind, which shrieked and moaned through the 300-year-old city for nearly 24 hours, smashed windows everywhere, ripped down signs and trees, and peeled shingles from the roofs. Roaches and lizards brazenly scrambled up walls to escape the high water. Nearly 50,000 persons sought the safety of public shelters. After her early morning strike at St. Augustine, Dora headed up the coast. The 5 a.m. Weather Bureau advisory placed the storm a short distance from Jacksonville, moving toward the west-northwest at a sluggish 7 miles an hour. Conditions will be slow to improve, said the weathermen. Jacksonville began feeling the jabs of Dora's 115-mile-per-hour winds during the night of September 9th. The full fury of the storm pulled into the gymnasium of Fletcher High School to ride out the storm. Before the day was over, Jacksonville Beach took the worst blow of all. Heavy tides rolled through the streets as far as 6 blocks inland. The hot dog stands and beer parlors along First Street, the favorite liberty spot for enlisted men from nearby Jacksonville Naval Station, were no longer there at dawn. 2 blocks away, more restaurants and shops were gutted.